Nigeria is often described as a young nation with one of the largest youth populations in the world. The country possesses immense human capital, creativity, talent, and energy. Yet, alongside this advantage lies one of our greatest challenges: the unemployment and underemployment. Every year, thousands of young Nigerians graduate from universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and vocational institutions. Many enter the labor market hopeful and ambitious, only to encounter limited opportunities and intense competition. Hello and welcome to Discourse on Global Television. I am your host, Priscilla Obasi. Today, we're talking about one of the very important topics that every Nigerian youth is asking. Questions every Nigerian youth is asking. Now, for some, unemployment may mean different things. Yes, it may mean financial hardship. It may mean delayed dreams. It may mean frustration and uncertainty about the future. At the same time, entirely different stories unfolding across various sectors: film industry, the music industry, the content creation industry, animation, photography, fashion, digital media, events, advertising, name it, gaming, entertainment, you just name it. Now, a lot of young Nigerians are creating jobs. They're building brands for themselves and generating income, especially the Gen Zs. What was once viewed merely as a talent or hobby is becoming a source of livelihood. The creative economy is emerging as one of the most dynamic sectors of modern economies around the world. The question, therefore, is: can the creative economy become a meaningful solution to youth unemployment in Nigeria? Can more young people transform their skill into sustainable income? What support systems are needed to achieve all of this? What role should the government, should the private sector, should educational institutions and the industry, all of its leaders, play in all of this? These are the questions we're asking today. To help us unpack this, we'll be joined by our guests, who you get to see after this break. Please stay with us. It's good to have you back. Thank you very much for still being here with us. Before we went on that break, I said we'll be joined by a guest after the break, and of course we're back. So we're joined by Kingsley Obasi Okwakaji. He is the CEO of Rockskin Productions. He's a music producer, recording engineer, a creative entrepreneur, and educator, dedicated to talent development and creative skills empowerment. Now, through his works, he has supported musicians, content creators, artists, media in general, media guys in general, in producing impactful and commercially viable creative content. Beyond his commercial ventures, he serves as also trustee of Good Vibes Foundation, a non-profit organization that leverages music, media, and creative expression to promote positive social values, to support healing and therapy initiatives, and also to address societal challenges through advocacy and education. The foundation collaborates with creative stakeholders locally and internationally, including affiliations with the United States, to amplify messages that inspire positive change. Passionate about the growth of Nigeria's creative sector, Kingsley advocates for the recognition of creativity as a driver of employment, economic development, social transformation, and national progress. He is joining us today to discuss this very topic: economic diversification, unlocking opportunities in Nigeria's creative industry. Thank you so much, Kingsley, for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a
Good to
delight to
have
be
you. Now
here.
let's get straight to it. Now, when we talk about youth unemployment in Nigeria, what do you believe is the biggest misconception many people have about this problem?
All right, talking about youth unemployment, something just coming into my head right now. Unemployment isn't even just about not having a job, but one can actually be busy but not employed, really. Okay? Where a lot of young people are missing it is because when it comes to this creative economy, they think that the creative space is entertainment. I don't. Can you hear me? All right.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
All right, so they think that the creative economy is about entertainment, but no, it's first business. All right, so a lot of youth are busy, they are dancing, they are singing, they are rapping, they're doing all of that. They're designing, they're painting, they're sculpting, but they're not really, employed. Why? Because they put the cart before the horse. They put the cart before the horse. Yes, it's good to learn, to practice and hone in your skills, but again, it's good to have a business structure, to have a business model, to have a basket that you're going to use to gather in your proceeds. And that's one big thing that I know is plaguing a lot of young people. Someone recently reached out to me and said, I see this opportunity somewhere. I see a venue that wants creatives to come, express, and then they share profit. And he wants to jump on it and be like, okay, you want to jump on it? How does your money come? And immediately things begin to fall apart. What is your business model? How are you going to do all of this? And questions began to come, and till today he has not even answered the questions completely. I hope you get the idea. So that's really what I see with young people, being able to do that background work. Yeah.
Why do we continue to have high level of unemployment? Now you between being busy and being employed, right? So we continue to have Nigerian youths come talk about unemployment despite producing thousands of graduates every year, despite having Nigerians who are talented, who are gifted, and yet we still hear of unemployment. There are people that are
That's
able
right.
to maybe bag some jobs, and you see how productive they are, and you're wondering, what were you doing all the while? What happened? Why have you been idle? And then, yeah, there are also those that have all the talent, are still unable to get themselves, that's um, job, as they call it, to help them sustain themselves and give them a source of income. Why is that?
Okay, so talking about job, a lot of young people are in a dilemma today. There's a big confusion, as to where they should focus their energy. We are at a crossroads right now. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's peculiar to this our present time or it has always been like that. But somehow I do know that there is this valley of decision so big, so deep, so wide, and the young people are trapped inside. And what is it exactly? The dilemma between going for a traditional education, traditional training, or going to learn a skill so that the little energy and time they have, the little resources they have, will not be spread, you know, in a way that it doesn't achieve so much. Okay. Uh, what was your question again? You're talking about, yes, the employment. There's this problem whereby a lot of people are educated and they have education that was designed, education they got for a job that no longer exists. A lot of jobs that people train for do no longer exist. So young people don't want to go into that space, but there's a lot of uncertainty. Can I go on my own? There is this fear of stepping aside. Some people are daring, they step on their own and they find gold. Others, fail, probably because they didn't put everything together. So in this whole talk, it's not even a debate against education versus, when I say education, I mean formal education versus getting a skill. It's not even a debate, all right? But it's a matter of focus and direction. I feel like everywhere, in every young person's life, there should be a time, all right? There should be time, rather, not just a time. There should be time dedicated to learning of skills. We cannot do without both right now. There's no way you can say you want to be a musician, for example, all right? You want to be a musician, for example, and then you block out the idea of going to school totally. No, nobody should do that. Nobody should do that. Instead, we should design our lives in such a way that the learning of skills goes hand in hand with formal education. Parents should design their children's life and time that way. Every Friday, every Saturday, let there be special lessons. Not special lessons to teach them math and English. No. Not to teach them science and all of that. No. Special lessons to teach them a lot of skills and vocation, to study them and know what piques their interest, to let them explore and discover the world outside math and English. All right, let it not be optional. Let it not, if you have budget for education for your children, let a good percentage of it go towards things like coding, all right, things like fashion designing or whatever it is. There are trades that will never go anywhere. Things like fashion designing, no, but nothing is taking it. All right, so people can still learn tailoring. They can still learn fashion design and a lot of these things. And parents should make it a point of duty that to see that their children are trained, are sponsored, are encouraged to see these things as very, very important. That way, there's no shock. A lot of young people, when they graduate, just about the time when they go for NYSC, that's when they begin to think, looks like I have not learned anything. I've not gotten a strong skill. In case a job does not come, that's when they begin to think about it. And then there is already pressure to make money. What I'm saying is not new, all right? So what I'm saying is it needs to start already from early. Parents need to facilitate it. The schooling system needs to facilitate it. Thank
It's
you.
also the complaint that I think recently, Money Point, one of Nigeria's fintech, or what do we call them now? These banks came out to say we have a lot of Nigerian youths that are unemployable, and it's not the first time we're hearing it. There are, young Nigerian people that are qualified. I mean, when I say qualified, they have the paper, the certificate, but a lot of CEOs, a lot of business owners, a lot of employers still call them unemployable. What's the missing link? What does that statement mean to you particularly, and how do we go past it?
Well, you see, creativity, I think, is, in fact, I don't think, I know, creativity is what drives employment any day, any time. We don't want to employ zombies, okay? There's a kind of education that makes you think one way. All right, the road has been designed, everything is clear, it's structured, it's the way it was, it's the way it is, and probably it's the way it's still going to be for years to come. So the assurance that came with it becomes an illusion that makes people still subconsciously, even though the reality is there, that the road is changing, all right? The game is changing, but people still, there's a subconscious trust in the systems of the past. Okay, there's a subconscious trust in that system. For somebody to be and then you see that particular system, because of how defined it is, it makes people lazy and unable to think. But a terrain where you have to find your own way, if you walk in that terrain, you discover that you become more of a problem solver. So a lot of people who pass through the four walls of traditional school, if they are not careful, they will be boxed in a way that they can't solve practical problems. So they get into the workspace with their certificate, with their papers, but not with real problem solving, aptitudes and acumen. All right. So for somebody to be employable, there are a lot of things apart from discipline, being somebody who is time conscious and all of that, which, by the way, we get from school. And that's the reason why going to traditional school is very important to inculcate all of that culture into us. But then that alone does not give us what it, so to be employable, it cuts across just being able to do your job, but being able to solve problems, being able to adapt when conditions change, when unforeseen circumstances come. For me, I think that is the biggest factor when it comes to be employable.
I quite agree with you on that. But we must also understand that we have a Nigeria of today where a lot of employers seem to be asking for too much, for menial pay. I mean, for a stipend. So you expect someone to go overboard, bring on their A game, but they're not well compensated. Is that not a possibility or likelihood of locking up some employabilities that some graduates may tend to have? Is that a factor in all of this? Is it basically can we say that all of that can be a factor?
Well, right now I actually do not see the connection between low pay and employability. All right. While it discourages people from seeking traditional employment, I mean, it doesn't affect your employability. All right. By the way, doing a 9 to 5, okay, going through regular employment where you get a paycheck at the end of the month or something like that is good in its own way, but it shouldn't be the permanent stop for a creative. Okay, it shouldn't be the permanent stuff or stop rather. I feel it's an extension of school. It takes you through a rigorous training whereby you're able to align. A lot of people fall apart when they start their own thing. You are a creative, okay, there you want to now open your firm and start doing your business, but you don't even know how things run. You've not been in a practical space where people do management, where people handle people. Corporates, what do I say? How to, for example, interview people and get them aligned, how to choose the right manpower to join your organization. In fact, so many things that are involved in building an organization. If you are not part of an organization, it's difficult for you to know. You can read it on paper, but you can't get a hands-on experience. So I feel no matter no matter how small, all right, the pay is, it's good for a person to subject himself, at least for a period of time, to employment, to be able to gather experience, and then afterward, when capacity truly is built, a lot of people even still rush. I know people who are part of an organization, everything seems to be going well, and they feel like they are the star. They feel like they are the center of events. Maybe they are the most talented in that space, yes. Maybe they get the most work done, yes. And then they feel they are not being paid, they feel they are being used, they feel all of that, and then they just go ahead and start their own without plenty experience. And then what do you have? frustration, struggle, and then maybe discouragement at the end of the day. So indeed, it's very important to have that for a period. So there has to be a road plan. When you go into a particular, what I say, employment, have your own plan of how long you want to stay. If you plan to stay there, all through, then make sure that it's a very, very good plan at the end of the day, not to, cause frustration.
At the job market or the our economy right now, would you say we're facing the reality of graduate right now is a reality that have people having job shortage, or is it a shortage of skill, or is it a combination of both?
Um, well, I don't believe in job shortage. As long as there are human beings in this world, there will be problems. And as long as there are problems, jobs are going to be created. Jobs are created by problems. Jobs are a mirage. Problems are the real thing, okay? So what I would say is not that jobs are vanishing. No, what I'm saying is that jobs are changing. Job titles are changing. Job descriptions are changing. So is there a shortage of jobs? Yes, in the traditional sense, but no, there's an abundance of jobs today. An abundance of it. Is AI taking jobs? Absolutely yes. Is AI producing jobs? Absolutely yes. So who are those who are going to lose their jobs? It is not those, who in whose sector AI is coming in forcefully, but it's those who have refused to learn how to use AI. Okay, AI is a tool, but you see, emotion and direction will always ultimately be created by human beings. So jobs are going and jobs are coming as well.
Understand fully what the concept of creative economy is. Please help us walk our viewers through that.
Okay, the creative economy, it's all about the sector of our economy that hinges on human creativity. All right, human creativity. And what do I mean by human creativity? Not just any kind of creativity. Creativity in say arts. Yeah, let's say arts. Yes, arts. For example, music, dancing, sculpting, cinematography, and everything that entertains. Okay, so the creative economy is the part of the economy that is generated as a result of people using their creativity to either entertain people or educate people or shape society. In fact, Nigeria can use creativity, the creativity of young people to tell her own story and to create the narrative that they want the world to have about her. Today, the people of the world, have a particular stereotype, they have a particular image of Nigeria. But we have a very big tool in our hands. We know that when it comes to music and art, Nigeria in recent times is coming up so greatly, and that is a very big opportunity for us to use to rewrite whatever narrative has been created. I just felt I should chip that in. All right, so the creative space is really powerful, and because of that power, a lot of money can be generated. In fact, millions and millions and millions of Nigerian young people can be employed just in the creative economy alone.
For a very quick break right now. The conversation is halfway gone, but there's still a lot to unpack on this very episode of Discourse. So, dear viewers, let's go for a quick break. And when we return to unpack the remaining part of the conversation. Please do not go anywhere. Stay with us. It's good to have you back. Now, historically, many African parents encourage careers such as medicine, law, engineering, banking, civil service, and the likes of them. Creative careers were often seen as a taboo in some families, uncertain, or maybe some secondary school option. However, today, content creators, filmmakers, designers, photographers, musicians, digital marketers, and media entrepreneurs are building successful careers and even employing others. This shift has raised important questions about how society defines work, what success truly is, and economic contribution. Now, we're still in the studio virtually with Kingsley Obasi Okwakaji. He's helping us understand the creative economy and how to harness it. And this is definitely an eye opener for every Nigerian youth, particularly. Thank you so much, Kingsley, for still being here with us.
Thank you
Okay,
for having me
so
again.
what would you define as a difference between having, say, a talent and then building a sustainable career from that talent? What is even, can we even highlight the current realities of what the world of work and career is like? We had traditional careers that parents would often, push their children towards, but today the narrative has changed. The work front is quite different. The world of work is entirely different. The careers obtainable today is totally different from the conventional ones we used to have. And a lot of parents are not even shifting fast into this reality. Some are still stuck with the old ideas, or maybe the analog ideas. I don't know. There are careers that have been redefined. Even the conventional ideas we had, career ideas we had, have been redefined. That I don't even know if our educational sectors have been able to, you know, adapt to this update, or maybe we're still stuck back there. But what are the current realities and the current ideas, career ideas we have today, and how can we even harness it?
Um, okay, definitely there's a gap, there's a latency between our traditional systems and the current demands. Okay, when it comes to careers, when it comes to career, and to be honest, it's not easy. In fact, one thing that the human mind is very good at doing is resisting change. And there's a simple reason for that. Staying the same feels safe. The brain doesn't like shifting because it takes a lot of resources, it takes a lot of unlearning, and it takes a lot of energy to learn. In fact, the biggest thing about it is it also threatens identity and ego. A lot of people have a reason why they want their children to go for a particular career, all right, a very sentimental reason. The ability to give up that sentiment, the ability to embrace something new while not being so certain that it's going to thrive, while not knowing fully about it, it is really a daunting task, okay? But then it's something we must do. High risk, high reward, more safety, more, yeah, more safety and less earning, and that's exactly how it is. Just like it is with investment, so also it is with pursuing a career. Our educational system is lagging behind, definitely. I know it takes a lot of work to be able to upgrade, but it's something that the government must do. Something the government must do. A lot of things are even still being done paper-wise. Go to a lot of institutions, you want to register for something, you receive papers and you start writing and writing. When a lot of things can be done digitally, you know, um, there is a gap. There is a gap. So there's a big, call to to bridge that gap. All right. So the future of Nigerians will not only just be built by our leaders. It will not be built only by engineers. It won't be built only by politicians. It will be built by musicians as well. The little children are listening. They're listening to the music they hear around. And all these things shape society. So the earlier we begin to look into these things and taking them serious, the the faster, the better it will be for us very quickly. I remember a particular person coming to me and saying that, she wants to study, she wants to learn, yeah, wants to be an intern, at my firm, but she needs support, right? Yeah, she needs support to be able to undertake that program. And there has been a back and forth between she and her parents on supporting this, both parents, and somehow they are willing to support, but I know they are trying to manage their resources because they have other children, they have university bills to pay, and then here's this one talking about trying to get into entertainment, get into the studio and learn how to produce and all of that, and they are not making a decision. I see that hesitancy to to commit, to spend. They want it for their daughter, they want it, but they're not willing to invest. Are you getting it? Yeah, so it exists. It exists, but it's something we must do. We must do it.
Development as a nation. Sometimes we want to point fingers, to our government, to politicians, but then we've also heard of situations where some sectors of the country get privatized, and that's because maybe the government feels, oh, the private sector would handle this better. The private sector would fast bring about the change we want to see. So sometimes they hand it over somehow to the private sector. When it comes to, job creation and all of that, a lot of Nigerians are still overly dependent on, the civil service kind of job, the, being working in the government and all of that. Some people, basically because they've not seen jobs within the civil service, they opt for the private sector. But I want to know what the private sector, you painted a very, relatable situation where a mother or a child wants to learn this skill, a child wants to be an intern in this skill, and maybe the mother somehow does not understand it, because I feel like if they know the reward that can come from whatever it is that child wants to do, maybe they will invest more, maybe they're willing to take that risk better. So I see a gap. I see schools, educational institutions to having their own part to play. Yeah, they need to really have a way of having this collaboration with private firms or the private institutions. Back then, there's something that most firms used to do. Most times they bring students, right, to these firms, not just as excursion though, but expose them. The sideways that we have also in our universities, sometimes they leave the students to go there and look for somebody that will accept you to intern. But we need more collaboration with private sectors. I mean, the educational institution and the private sectors. If we can have collaborations, like we have a school, maybe an existing university that knows a particular firm that they can send you to, and they have a relationship with this firm. They don't leave you at the mercy or at the fate of whatever this firm says to you, if they accept you or not. They know that this particular department will function well if we have students that would intern with this organization. They send them there during their internship period. They call up, the supervisor goes to check. It's just a solid relationship between existing workplaces and the school. There's a link, there's a bridge, there's a relationship. Don't you think this would help, number one, students understand the world of work faster? It doesn't leave them at the mercy of, okay, I'm done with service, I've finished school, I've gone to intern, I'm back, and then when they are finishing service, at that point their eyes begin to, get cleared, and knowing that adulthood has come, there's no parents sponsoring you at this point. So that synergy for me doesn't really exist as much as it should. Private sectors too should have a way. They shouldn't just wait and wait for the government to reach out to them. If we say we want the country to work, just as you say, it lies in the hands of every single Nigerian. So we need to see more private firms reach out to institutions or reach out to maybe the government and say, this is the solution I want to prefer. This is my own corporate social responsibility. This is what I can bring to the table for our country to get better. If we have more of those private institutions, get really bring solution driven ideas rather than just folding hands and waiting for the government. Do you think we have enough of that? Do you think we have winning private sectors that are even going to do this anytime soon? Do you think there's anything that is limiting or a barrier that has prevented such synergy from playing out over these years?
Absolutely. I think the government already has this idea and they are doing it to some extent, but they need to spread more. One of the avenues I know is the program called SAID, SAED, that is Skill Acquisition and Entrepreneurship Development. Yes, that is an NYSC program where people like me and other creatives go and apply to be trainers for youth corps members. Okay, yeah, so it's a good program and it's beautiful. In fact, it's a very big gateway. A lot of people who start from that program are able to find their path and they just continue from there after NYSC, right? But it should go beyond NYSC. It should trickle down to probably the secondary schools, yeah, and maybe even further down, honestly. So the broader the program, and it should not just be, yeah, absolutely, that's just it. It should go beyond Said. It should be more formal. And a lot of people, I'm talking about creatives and entrepreneurs, may not really be interested in going for the side program. If the compensation isn't very reasonable, if it's not handsome, many of them will prefer to use their time to go about their own normal business. But if there's an encouragement to, if there's an encouragement from government, or maybe sensitization given to private individuals, people who can impart skill, to see the importance of corporate social responsibility, the way you put it. A lot of people don't see this. We don't have that responsibility, in our mind, that we have to just give something back. We just think about receiving and receiving and receiving and receiving. If that message can go out even stronger to people, then people might want to, take on such. All right. So definitely, government should, collaborate with private individuals, compensate private individuals. This is far better than handing palliatives, all right, and giving people, meager amounts of money that will not sustain. But no matter how small, I know a lot of people will even jump on it. Absolutely, a lot of people will jump on it if the door is opened. Yes, so it's a very, very good initiative, and I know it will help the country absolutely well.
Those set of Nigerian youth that have all the talent in the world, yet struggle to monetize their ability. It's a digital world. They say the world is a global village right now. The people that make a lot of money online, there are still some that are struggling and saying, "How you guys doing it?" And instead of monetizing their abilities, they depend on people to give them urgent 2K and look for how to keep begging and asking people for money. Some of them have wonderful phones they use, yet they have stayed, I don't want to say broke, but broke. So how can we encourage such people to monetize their abilities? Are you there? Okay, we seem to be losing connection, strong connection there, but we go for a quick break and we return to the conversation. A very big thank you for still being here with us. We appreciate our guests, Kingsley Obasi Okwakaji, for the insights. Now, as we gradually bring this conversation to a wrap, to a close, it's important to reflect on what we have been talking about, right? So ultimately, what we're highlighting is youth unemployment. We have graduates. And for me, the sad reality is that we don't start to see the menace this is. I mean, for the concerned persons we're talking about, we don't know. It hits suddenly. You finish, your youth service corps and then realize there's no job. All the while, you've heard people complain. All the while, there are people in school right now that still hear people complain of no job. But somehow, you just feel like your case is different. You feel like, okay, I'm going to be exceptional. Until you finish, and then you understand why they say there's no job. Now, a lot of people say there's no job, not because they don't have what they are doing, but because the source of income, the salaries they get from whatever it is they are doing, does not commiserate with the responsibilities, the economic situation and economic realities of the country. So some people would say, it's not enough, it's not sustainable. So if you are a student or if you are a graduate, Nigerian graduate, and you find yourself in this cycle, there's an opportunity right now that we must all harness, and that's the creative economy. There's nobody in this world that was born without the ability to create. The difference between you and that awesome creator is that that person have been able to build their skill, master their skill, over and over, practice what it is they like to do, build structure, being able to discipline themselves effectively, being able to just build structure around that thing they like to do, and that's what makes a difference. The creative economy is such an economy that every single Nigerian can benefit from. You have social media right now. You have abilities to earn from internationally from countries through different means. I mean, there are remote jobs right now. There are as simple as, well, not simple per se, but you have phones, you have things you can use your phones to do. You want to go and become a designer, a graphic designer. Artificial intelligence has even made this thing easier. Knowledge is not far-fetched again. I think the problem we have in our today's world is too much knowledge, because knowledge is everywhere. They are at our fingertips. So how to use the pick from the pool of knowledge now becomes a confusing factor. And that is what we need to solve, or some of the problems we need to solve, if we must if we must end this problem, if we must find solution or bring an end to the situation. So the creative economy affords everyone an equal chance. Yes, you may not have that background that has given you the exposure, the right network, but social media, they say right now, is indeed a leveler. It brings the high, the mighty, the low, everyone, and puts them on the same pedestal. Yes, and then there are situations where even that person that feels they're influential has to depend on someone else that has been able to own their space on social media to give them publicity. So these are the conversation. We still have we've been able to get our guests back to the conversation. Thank you, sir, for still being here with us. I don't know if you heard my last question before we went. I was trying to talk about those very talented people that yet struggle to make ends meet despite all the skill they've been able to gather. What will be that one thing you say to them?
Yes, so I'm gonna speak to both young people and mentors. Yes. People think automatically that wealth comes from knowing how to do something. It's a very big shock when a young person grows up and then all of a sudden the world is something else, different from what they had in their head. Yes.
Focus. trying to mess up the flow. But I mean, I can just continue from there. Workplace, and I think he just extends to what I've been talking about, right? You have that aspiration, you have the imagination, you have your life mapped out, you have the years you want to use to achieve whatever you want to achieve, and then when you're done with that phase that you think you can now start to, it's now time to start to achieve them, you see a different reality. So there is something called mentorship, which is what our guest was trying to say. Maybe I just say a little about it. If we're able to have him back, he'll also buttress more on it. But mentorship is one thing that helps you bridge the gap. You being where you are on the other side of the road, and then there's a bridge and you see people that have been able to cross it and they are on the other side of that road. Your ability to be able to learn from them, your ability to be able to get the tips they use, your ability to be able to be coached by them, your ability to be able to be disciplined by them, because it takes a lot of discipline. And unfortunately, I think we have a generation that does not want to go through that discipline. So you think it's at a snap of the finger, at the blink of an eye, you can get what you want to get. But we must take mentorship serious if we want to be able to liberate young Nigerians from this menace called unemployment. We have to take mentorship serious. If you are a successful entrepreneur, it's time to reach out to those that, have the potential, have the talent. And of course, if you are that young Nigerian, you need to be someone that is willing to listen, that is willing to be disciplined, that is willing to go through it all just to get the results. You cannot build wealth by imagination alone. It takes a lot of process, and you must be part of that process. You must be willing to embrace that very process. Whether it's digital skill you want to learn, whatever the skill, you have to be willing. Now, behind every unemployment figure is a young Nigerian with ambition, with ideas, with skill, with hope, but also in many cases with frustration, with uncertainty, and questions about the future. Now, the reality we face as a nation is quite clear, I'd say. We have rapidly growing youth population, but not enough structured opportunities to absorb them into traditional employment system. And this is where today's conversation becomes important. Our time is fast spent. We can't take our guests back, but we've been able to define creativity, maybe not so much of digital skill. Content creation is one opportunity too that is available. There's something called freelancing. There's something called entrepreneurship, innovation. All of these characteristics or all of these opportunities are what is available for today. And the ability for you to solve problems, just as our guests say, in many ways also makes you relevant in today's world. So across Nigeria, people are starting to demonstrate the shifts from filmmaking to fashion design, digital marketing, photography, tech, innovation, name it. But the challenge remains. Growth is still largely informal, under-supported, and not fully structured. So this is my plea to every person in the private sector. Nigeria is ours, and we must do this together. In the government, we cannot overemphasize that the government needs to do better, but we can collectively make it work. So if you have your ideas, if you have your way of taking the country from A to B, reach out and let the collaboration between the private sector and the government sector begin. Let the educational system also know and know that there is a gap that needs to be filled, and let it start being filled already. There are lots of opportunities for us as Nigerians, and we have that opportunity to rewrite our name, regardless of whatever narrative has been peddled against us. Well, this has been Discourse, and I have been your host, Priscilla Obasi. The future of work is changing, and young Nigerians must be prepared not only to seek opportunities, but also to create them. Thank you so much for joining us on Discourse. I still remain your host, Priscilla Obasi, and bye for now.